If you've been looking at the headlines lately, trying to figure out what's going on in the world, you are definitely not alone. It can feel like everything is happening all at once. You've got geopolitical tensions, climate disasters, AI is exploding. But what if they aren't actually separate stories? What if they're all deeply connected? Well, that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to connect the dots. So let's just start with a number 85. Now, that's not a temperature, it's not a stock price, it's a measure of how much risk our entire world is in. And honestly, it might be the most important number you hear all year. So what is it? That number means we're at 85 seconds to midnight on the Doomsday Clock. And this isn't some prop from a science fiction movie, it's a real, symbolic clock that was created way back in 1947 by the actual scientists who helped build the first atomic bombs. They use it to signal just how close humanity is to a global, self-inflicted catastrophe. And get this, 85 seconds is the closest we have ever been in its entire history. So why are the alarm bells ringing so loudly? Well, it's not just one thing. It's a bunch of things hitting us all at once. The scientists who set the clock are pointing to this really dangerous mix. Nuclear treaties are falling apart, you've got active wars involving nuclear-armed countries, climate disasters are picking up speed, and you've got the explosion of AI-driven disinformation. It's the combination of all these threats that's really pushed us to the edge. Okay, so as all these global risks are piling up, the world isn't just standing still. The old order, the old way of doing things, is fracturing. And in its place, we're seeing these new power blocks, new teams, starting to form. Let's take a look at the first big shift. And a huge example of this is what the EU's own chairman is calling the mother of all deals. The European Union and India just finalized a massive free trade and strategic partnership. This is a move that basically redraws the economic and political map of the world. And to get a sense of just how massive this is, you just have to look at the numbers. We're talking about a new partnership that connects nearly 2 billion people. It covers a quarter of the entire global GDP. Together, they create a $27 trillion market zone. I mean, this isn't just another trade deal. It's a genuine tectonic shift in global power. So when a deal this big goes down, you're going to get a few different takes on it, right? A lot of the foreign analysis sees this as a really smart strategic move. The EU and India are basically looking for reliable partners to protect themselves from unpredictable American tariffs on one side and Chinese export controls on the other. But back in the US, some conservative viewpoints see it differently. They either frame it as just natural diversification, or they see it as proof that an America First tariff policy actually backfired and pushed our allies to make deals without us. And this whole realignment thing, it's not just a one-off. At the exact same time, you've got the British Prime Minister over in Beijing trying to reset the UK's relationship with China. The official line is that they're trying to find a balance between, economic needs and security concerns. But the bigger picture here is that every major power is scrambling to reevaluate their friendships and alliances in this totally new world. Now, all this high-level stuff, it doesn't just stay in the halls of power. It trickles down, and it starts putting some very real, very visible stress on the systems we all rely on every day, from the grid that keeps our lights on to even where we choose to live. I mean, just look at what's been happening in the United States, where a really brutal winter storm knocked out power for over 1 million people. The electrical grid, literally the backbone of our modern lives, is being pushed to its breaking point, and it's showing us just how fragile our core systems have become. And here's the really crazy part. In this powerful, almost cinematic contrast, while one side of the world is literally freezing, the other is on fire. At the exact same time, a record-shattering heat wave in Australia is pushing temperatures past 49 degrees Celsius. That's over 120 Fahrenheit. This kind of environmental whiplash is a stark, real-world example of the climate volatility scientists have been warning us about for years. And the stress isn't just on our infrastructure, it's on our populations too. In the US, population growth has slowed way down thanks to lower immigration and birth rates, and economic pressures are literally redrawing the map. For the longest time, Florida was the place everyone was moving to. Now, rising costs there mean that South Carolina is the nation's fastest growing state. People are voting with their feet, just trying to find somewhere they can actually afford to live. When you have this much chaos and change and uncertainty swirling around, it's the perfect breeding ground for a whole different kind of conflict. A battle over information, over the stories we tell, and ultimately over what people believe is true. So let's look at a phrase that recently appeared on an official US government social media account. Which way, Greenland man? Now, to most of us, that probably sounds like complete nonsense, right? But according to researchers who track extremism, it's a direct echo of slogans popular in white nationalist groups, referring to this idea of a white ethno-state. And the fact that it's showing up in official government communications is at the center of a huge debate. So you've got two completely different ways of looking at this. On one side, experts on extremism argue these aren't subtle dog whistles anymore. They're bullhorns, a really clear, deliberate signal to these groups. But on the other side, supporters of the administration say, whoa, hold on, this is just patriotic language, or maybe some edgy trolling, and critics are just reading way too much into it. The whole debate really boils down to intent versus impact. This battle for information, it takes a much more direct and, frankly, scarier form in other parts of the world. In Venezuela, after all the recent political turmoil, citizens are actually being taught how to survive a random phone inspection by authorities. The advice is chillingly practical. Always assume your phone is going to be searched, constantly delete any sensitive chats, and use secret, coded words to talk about anything political. This is what information control looks like in a climate of real fear. All right, so let's take a step back. We've got a doomsday clock ticking closer to midnight than ever before. We've got brand new global power blocks forming, our own systems at home are buckling under the strain, and there's a full-blown information war raging. How do all of these pieces actually fit together to paint a single picture of our world right now? Okay, this right here, this is the single most important takeaway from all of this. None of these are separate stories. What we are living through is a great convergence, a moment where all these massive forces, geopolitical shifts, climate instability, AI disruption, and stress on governments are all colliding and feeding into each other, making each one worse. And that's why this all matters so much to you and me. The big story of our time isn't one single headline, it's the interaction between all these forces. This convergence is the defining challenge of this decade, and it's forcing all of us, individuals, companies, entire countries, to adapt more quickly than at any other point in recent memory. Which leaves us with one last question, something for you to think about. As all of these powerful, world-shaping forces continue to collide and interact, what do you think becomes the single most important skill for navigating the complex and challenging decade that lies ahead?